actual show going on
Right, exactly. So we'll
with
see.
people talking.
All right, and we are live. So we don't have the theme music. I don't have Tack Daddy's entry music, but
That's all right.
so this is the Tack Daddy live show. Subbing for the Tack Daddy. He's in the mountains and having connectivity issues, I should say. So
Well,
hopefully
there's
he'll.
one problem with that stone guy. You said mountains. What kind of mountains do you have out there in the east?
All right.
Uh,
Well, I
My
don't know.
backyard. My backyard is the mountains.
I'm not going to disclose his location, but he's having connectivity issues. So um,
When he's in a Starbucks, isn't he?
he was going to try, but he said the
It's,
Starbucks wasn't working.
it's not a gun chat website friendly environment.
That's what I told him. I said that's probably what it is. They blocked your signal because they knew you were going to run a gun chat. But no, he said he's going to try to run around and find a signal and maybe hop in. So hopefully he will. So, as always, give a shout out to the sponsors of the Tack Daddy Live Show, Viridian Greenlight Lasers, Head Down. Who else? Scoot, some of the other.
We got Gun World of South Florida.
Right.
And then, yeah, it's so much harder when you put Johnny on the spot here.
right? Are we still doing Nate Squared Tactical?
Head down, right?
Head Down, Nate Squared, yep, exactly.
All those great guys, check them out.
Yep.
Are we still plugging Forest City as well?
Forest City Tactical's a good guy, yep. I got some of his stuff.
That's all I had, guys. Sorry. That's all I can remember.
Good quality merchandise.
High quality merchandise.
So hopefully, and we only have a few people watching right now because this is not my usual time, and everybody's probably still scanning Tack Daddy's channel to, waiting for it to go live. So hopefully, they'll if anybody, yeah, we can network and figure out it's here.
Well, let me share the link. That might help, huh?
Yeah, share the link, like it on your page.
I'll share that real quick.
And we'll go over some things while we're waiting for people to filter in here. The biggest couple of the things that Tack Daddy wanted to talk about tonight was the DC ruling. Obviously, DC put a stop to. I don't know the correct terminology for that. They.
I actually sent that link to him earlier.
Oh, okay. Well, then, yeah, go ahead. Right on.
What it was, a federal judge struck down the ban on carrying concealed handguns in public in the District of Columbia. It is right now, though, on a 90-day hold, waiting to see if the city's going to try to appeal. But the ruling from a New York federal judge was that it's unconstitutional.
Well, yeah, we got that part, but then didn't they put an injunction on the judge's order or something like that?
Right now, it's under a 90-day hold. If the city doesn't appeal within the 90 days, the restriction will be lifted.
Well, doesn't it? It's going to go to an appeals court, right?
Only the city hasn't decided whether or not they're going to appeal it yet. They're sitting on it right now. No, there's been no word one way or another.
Okay, because that came down I think on Friday, this past Friday. It was because they were saying first thing Monday morning they were definitely going to file an appeal or file a hold or however that legal mumbo jumbo goes. They were going to put a stop to it temporarily until it can go through the proper appeals court. So who knows? That's something we definitely need to watch. If in fact they don't appeal it or the appeal gets denied, that would set a precedent for gun laws, especially in D.C. Because like you said, not right now, but as of this past weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday even, I think it was still good to go. I don't think they got the ruling until Wednesday, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday.
Well, I decided to jump on Twitter here and take a look at NRA News, which is typically where I find my stuff.
Because we know Digital Profits is in that area, and he was saying that even Monday they could still legally carry, and they had sent out a memo to the law enforcement in that area telling them.
Yep, they did. This is updated as of 7:30 p.m., so that's tonight. They're looking at the city's acknowledging that an outright ban on carrying concealed handguns isn't going to fly, but they're trying to do more like a Massachusetts style issue for concealed carry permits, which is a like a May issue. The police chiefs in the towns in Massachusetts have say-so over who can have a concealed carry permit or who can have handguns in general. Massachusetts, the only thing they have to give you is an FID card, which covers shotguns and rifles. So they're trying to do something similar with concealed carry permits and out of DC. And I can actually post the article.
Right. So they're going to become because I think they're a May issue state, right?
The district, I think, I'm not really too sure. That's where we need Kevin, because he knows a lot more about the District of Columbia.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing was, okay, here, Digital Profits. Yeah, hold on, he just sent me a message. We're gonna get Digital Profits in here because he'll be able to speak to this. He's in that area. So I'm gonna send him a link real quick, and he's gonna.
I'm actually gonna retweet
that. But generally, the catalyst that got this whole thing moving was the fact that they were not issuing any licenses.
Well, there was that was the ban on carrying concealed handguns in the district.
Right, and the ban's not a problem as far as concealed. That's not really that's not unconstitutional. You don't have the right to have it concealed. You have the right to keep and bear arms. So, but the fact of them just basically they were blatantly saying, look, we're not going to issue any licenses, so therefore it's kind of a de facto ban on any being able to carry any firearms, period, because we're not going to issue the license whether or not you're legally, whether you fit all the prerequisites or criteria to be able to own and carry that gun, we're still not going to issue the licenses. And that's, I think, what was the driving force on them bringing the suit and getting the judgment by the court saying, look, you can't do that. That you can't. That's unconstitutional to deny people, to outright deny people the right to possess, to carry firearms.
Right, and that's where the ruling comes from, which I don't know. I guess it's on a 90-day hold, but it pretty much, the way I read the articles, I've been reading on it because I've been kind of following it, is that the district is pretty well aware that an outright ban is not going to hold up constitutionally, so they're trying to see what they can do to restrict access to said license, but still have to give them out.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, that's what they had prior to the suit. So what they had was a no issue. It wasn't may, it wasn't shall, and that's how they got the ruling that they got. Now, the ruling doesn't say whether it needs to be may issue or whether it needs to be like Illinois, which was almost threatened with a shall issue type ruling. In a chat, I heard Yankee Marshall actually say, well, no, they have to make it may issue, blah, 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 blah. But I don't believe that, because if that was the case, then there would be no more may issue states left. So I really seen them doing something like Maryland, where they're going to give it to off-duty cops. They're going to give it to, federal security people, anybody who works for the federal government who gets to carry a gun anyways. They'll give it to them for their off-duty purposes. But no one can come up with a good enough reason as an average civilian to be able to carry a gun, and that's what I see them doing.
So what's the deal now, Marco? Is so as of right now they put a stop to
the legal jargon
the constitutional.
Is called a stay. Yeah, like the legal jargon is called a stay, and that's in place for 90 days. In those 90 days, so for those 90 days, we revert back to whatever the law was prior to the ruling. So we had about 48 hours of carry, because the decision came down Saturday, like around 6 or 7 o'clock, and by, I want to say, so Sunday you had Monday, and then Tuesday around 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock is when the stay got granted. So you had about 48 hours in total to carry.
Marco, I got a quick question for you because I read a couple of things of saying that DC police weren't going to enforce the ban. Have you heard anything about that down there?
Well, I actually did a ride along Tuesday night, and at midnight, and I was gonna actually carry. I went to my gun shop around 5 o'clock to go pick up a 10-round mag because the mag law was still in effect because that wasn't challenged in the ruling. And I got there around 5 o'clock, and they were like, "Well, the stay's been put in, so you can't carry in DC." So that saved me like $30 from having to buy a Glock mag. But I mean, like the cop that I rode with, and most of them, they honestly don't care. They honestly don't care. I mean, and these are cops that work in. I mean, like I did a ride along in one of the shittiest places in DC, and they don't care if homeowners have them, but they had a real problem with just anybody down the street open carrying. They didn't care if you concealed carry because if they're gonna get surprised by by a thug with a gun, they probably don't even have a permit. They don't care. So if they see someone concealed carrying, they probably have a permit or whatever the case may be. But yeah, so like they were real worried about people open carrying more so than concealed carrying. That was their biggest concern, is walking up on somebody with a pistol out.
Right, well, that makes sense, being in an area that had a ban on carrying, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, well, let's open carry and be stupid about it.
That was the biggest thing that me and him talked about as far as during our ride along, was that, like he also lives in Maryland. He grew up in Maryland. I actually went to high school with the guy who was a cop. And, like me and him were discussing. I was like, yeah, us as residents, we don't have the culture of people being able to carry, and you guys as officers don't have the culture and how to police people that do carry. So it's going to be a learning experience on both sides.
Right, and I'm sure the penalties would be significantly upped in DC compared to
yeah, because any felony in DC is a federal felony.
Well, I hope it works out down there. I hope that stay gets lifted sooner rather than later.
Now, another thing that I found interesting in the actual decision, which I'm not sure if you guys actually read like the summary of it, but what it says is that the district does not have the right to deny an out-of-state or an out-of-city resident just based on the fact that they're not a resident of the District of Columbia the ability to carry. So, which that means is not only does DC have to provide some form of permit, no matter how strict they make it for their own residents, but in some way or shape or fashion, they have to either issue out-of-state permits themselves or honor those of others. Now, if they're smart and they really want to, make this, as hard as possible to get, they'll issue their own out-of-district permit, and once again, make it impossible for an average civilian to get. But if they start honoring everybody else's, I mean, Virginia is right across the Potomac. You know what I'm saying? And this place is full of tourists, so you'll have everyone carrying but its own residents.
That doesn't make too much sense. Yeah, reciprocity. Isn't there, actually, speaking of that, isn't there a bill right now for
national reciprocity?
Yeah,
there's always a bill for national. Like every year they try.
Yeah,
So,
I would love to see that. I don't know if I don't know if that's something that's ever really we're going to see that, or.
Well, another thing that's really that's actually helping her cause for national reciprocity is the registered nurse from Pennsylvania in New Jersey. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard that lady. She actually got caught in New Jersey, and the same federal prosecutor that gave Ray Rice nothing is trying to give this chick 3 to 10 years. So.
Right, I did hear about that, and I was going to bring that up a couple of weeks ago.
So if if the correct liberal news stations pick this up, you can actually get a lot of momentum for that bill to actually get pushed this year, because, if one thing we've learned is, it's always a good thing to exploit a tragedy, so why not use that to our advantage this time?
That's a good point. I'm not going to disagree with that.
Well, so the other kind of big thing that Tac Daddy wanted to go over was this whole Jesse Ventura thing.
Oh yeah.
So we talked a little bit last night about this in the chat that Never Enough Ammo was hosting, and it was kind of a split panel. And I heard. Okay, let me preface this statement, because initially my understanding of the lawsuit was simply that Chris Kyle apparently had punched him and knocked him out and wrote about it in the book. That was like as much as I knew about the situation.
My understanding was there was some verbal exchange.
Well, yeah, and that's
Punch.
right, and that's where it gets a little more, not really confusing. It gets a little more justified. And I digress. Let me go.
You're
Okay.
gonna justify assault?
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. That's the thing. Apparently, the defamation of character suit was filed because of the what he wrote about in the book was basically saying that Jesse Ventura had said that something to the effect, and I'm paraphrasing here, had said something to the effect, right, that the SEALs could stand to lose a few, that it was okay, and then something about the Marines. Anyway, basically saying it was okay for SEALs to die or to be killed. And so that aspect of what was misrepresented, I can completely understand someone filing a defamation of character lawsuit, because that's something that I don't think that anybody would want to be associated with, saying, that an American soldier should be killed, or it's okay for an American soldier to be killed. So once that was told to me, and if that's in fact the truth, I could really see where he's coming from with this lawsuit.
That being said, I understand that aspect of it, but he said something on, what was it, CSNBC or whatever it was, or whatever, CNBC or whatever news network it was. He can't even go to SEAL reunions now because he's scared to who might come after him. I mean, if you're worried about that, maybe you should have backed down in the first place after the guy was killed.
Well, and that's the thing. Personally, because that's what I was initially, I was like, look, it's one thing to file a lawsuit while the guy's still alive, and you can kind of get both sides of the story, and Chris has got a chance to defend himself, and they can have some back and forth and come straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Once he was murdered, for him to, and people are like, well, he didn't sue his wife directly, he sued the estate. And yeah, I understand that. That's kind of,
the estate that takes care of his wife and
exactly.
kids.
So that's the problem I have with it, honestly.
Hold on. Well, let me ask you guys this: do any of you guys know how much the estate is total?
No, I don't.
Because if the estate is $10 million and she only lost 1.8, I don't give a shit. You know
well, it's about principle,
because,
and I guess you could argue it's principle on both sides, because, granted, as far as Jesse Ventura is concerned, he had a right to file that lawsuit if, in fact, Chris Kyle published something that was untrue and hurt his reputation and was a defamation of character.
And he proved that in court, didn't he? He won that. That's exactly what he won in court.
Yeah, but the problem is that Chris Kyle wasn't there to actually defend himself and give his side of the story. And that's where I don't understand how you get a ruling like that.
Well,
and that's one side of it.
Exactly, and that's what I have the problem. Initially, and I think I had went on record saying that I thought it was bullshit, because there's no way that just being punched out would be a defamation of character. There's no way that just because you got knocked out by someone that would hinder you from getting work or from being idolized, like supposedly he was, being a professional wrestler and the governor and all this sort of shit. But once I found out about the actual verbal misrepresent, or just outright lies, and there again, this is all he said, she said, but apparently that's what happened. That's why it wasn't.
Here's the other thing. This is the other thing. I read an article. The jury was deadlocked. The judge pushed that jury into a decision. They were deadlocked for 4 days.
All right.
And the juror told the judge, I don't think we're going to reach a verdict. And then the judge pushed them back into the room and said, you need to come up with something.
Right.
Well, let me say this. I mean, you guys say that it's not fair because he wasn't there to defend himself. But in a legal case of he said, she said, it doesn't matter what either party said. It's going to be more about what the witnesses actually saw and reported. So honestly, whether he was there or not, his testimony in that particular case carries very little weight. And if it happened in a bar, the people hanging out the bar actually probably carry more weight, because I can say, hey, you did this, and you can say, hey, I did that, and we could go to court, and what you and I say doesn't really matter. It matters what the crowd says, because, you know, at that point, we're litigants. So, of course, I'm going to say whatever I have to say, and, of course, you're going to say whatever you have to say. But what the people saw, that's what won the case.
Well, and that could be true, and but I guess ultimately, and like I said, it's kind of a catch-22, because he definitely, if in fact he said what he said and he published what he published, and Jesse didn't say that, then that is a clear-cut case of defamation of character. You know, like I said, no one wants to be associated with that. But it's also a situation where, yes, while he had the right to pursue a lawsuit, I would feel that you almost have, I don't know if it's not necessarily a moral obligation, but some sort of compassion for the family of someone that was murdered. You know, regardless of whether he was a war hero or whatever. You know, the job, his title doesn't matter. The fact is he was murdered, and this is going to affect the family more so than anything, and I don't see what, I just really don't understand what he's getting by pursuing that lawsuit after Chris Kyle was murdered.
I've heard that. All right, so I mean, so like I'm not trying to point you out, but I've heard you say moral a lot of times, like when you make your argument for saying that Jesse Ventura was a dick for this. I've heard you say that a bunch of times. But honestly, like, I mean, my personal opinion is, in the land of the home and the free, I don't ever expect someone to have the same morals as I do, ever. And if you have that expectation of the American society, you're shitting up Schitt's Creek.
Oh yeah, I know. That's why I say it. It is.
So it's your morals and the way you feel about it, but to have that expectation for either the majority of a country or for a jury panel to have such things, those expectations are way high, bro. Like, you can't have those expectations for other people to share your same morals.
Oh yeah, agreed. That's it's personal preference, and obviously Jesse Ventura felt that it was more, it was more advantageous for him to pursue this lawsuit to get a ruling one way or the other. I guess to bring Ventura, closure.
He's a really, really good self-promoter. It's what the guy did. He learned how to be a self-promoter when he was a wrestler, and that's how he's made a lot of his money. Of course, now he's pretty much broke, and the settlement kind of, according to him, the quote that I just read, most of it's going to pay his lawyers, which I doubt. But I don't know, it's a matter of principle.
The other thing I heard was that he asked for like $10 million, and they only gave him. Yeah, and they only gave him one, so that was.
Yeah, 1.8. Well, the numbers I just read, the book's made $5 million. So he's got 1.8 million of that, apparently.
And
is that total sales or profits of the book?
That's what the book has made.
So
the money that the book's made.
So that could be total net sales, though.
They didn't go into detail as it. They said the book's made $5 million. He was awarded 1.8. He wanted $15 million.
So that's good, and maybe we still don't know because this is fairly new. If he was to take that money and maybe donate it to a Wounded Warrior program or donate it to whoever.
Honest, public opinion's been pretty well covered, and there's a few high-profile SEALs or former SEALs who have indirectly or directly spoken out against him. I don't think there's anything he can do to make himself better in the public eye.
Right. Well, It would for me, and I think it would for a lot of people if he donated that money to whatever cause, whether it be a children's hospital or something involving the veterans or feed the hungry or whatever. If he did that, if he donated that money, that would speak more to his principles and show the American public that it was simply about the principle of the situation. It was about the fact that his name was defiled, that he was pursuing that lawsuit to clear his name, and it wasn't about the money. If he did that, I think people would respect him more for sticking to his principles more so than just trying to win a $15 million lawsuit because he pissed away whatever money he's earned in his lifetime.
Right. Yeah, I agree and disagree at the same time. I mean, if you're trying to do it for principle, you kind of defeat the purpose by going after the estate that takes care of a man's wife and kids after he's been murdered. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I hear you. Like, you know, when it first broke, like when I first found out about the lawsuit, like I said before, I knew all the story. I was livid because I couldn't believe that he would have the audacity to sue someone just because he got punched by him. But then, you know, once I found out or heard, I shouldn't say found out, because there's more to the story, but once more information became available that there was more to the story than just him getting knocked out, then it made a little more sense to me of why he would have pursued something like that.
Right, and I can definitely understand that, and I do understand it, and I can see where that matters. It's just the unfortunate thing is the circumstances. The person who defamed him is no longer alive.
Right. And honestly, if it was me, I think.
And the other key point for me to this whole thing is the jury was deadlocked, and I'm sorry, I was wrong. It wasn't 4 days, 6 days. And at the 6th day, they told the judge they couldn't come up with a unanimous decision. Judge told them, keep trying. So, what? Somebody caved? Or a couple people caved just to get out of there after 6 days of deliberation? That doesn't sound like a definitive answer to me. It sounds like whatever court case was presented on Ventura's side wasn't whole. It wasn't a dead, here it is, this is what happened, and this is how we proved it.
It just kind of seems like a stupid thing altogether. I mean, the guy took punches all the time in the WWF.
Well, that's the thing. And I kind of agree with Stone Guy. I don't think it's the punch that's really the big deal. I can't remember what the exact quote is, but it was something that Ventura allegedly said about SEALs killing civilians in Iraq, and the SEAL teams could stand to lose a few guys. So that's where the lawsuit mainly focused. The punch was kind of secondary to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a thing. Well, so we'll kind of switch gears a little bit. Apparently, I just read this on the little news ticker. Guy in Chicago, of all places, one of the places with some of the strictest gun laws, walked into his job where he had been demoted and shot his CEO and then killed himself today.
Oh, awesome.
There you go.
So, let that be a warning to all CEOs.
At any time, your employee could come in and shoot you and then kill themselves.
No, come on. Gun control works, guys. This was an isolated incident in Chicago. Oh, wait.
But I just saw that just broke today, so that was kind of crazy. And joining us, Mr. G. Webbs. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, sorry, I got the times wrong here. You guys have been going for a while now?
Yeah, a little bit. Well, see, initially, Tack thought he was going to be able to get it started, and he was going to I was just going to start the link, and he was going to join and run it, but then he couldn't even establish a good, solid connection, so it kind of turned into kind of a random chat with his topics that he wanted to cover, so...
What we figured out is the mountains out there in Pennsylvania are killer.
The foothills of the
Well,
I'm
Alps.
just gonna keep rubbing
you
that
guys-
in because, like,
Don't you guys have the Poconos or some shit? Isn't there a lot of mountains up there?
That's up by me. That's up my way.
Okay.
what's the tallest peak out there in the Appalachians?
Oh, in Georgia? Oh, we got the Blue Ridge.
hold
And
on,
what's the elevation?
I don't know, probably 4,000, 4,500.
4,500. I'm setting at 4,000 right now.
Nice.
But then again, I'm in the Rockies, so that's kind of unfair.
Yeah, come on now. That's comparing apples to grapes.
Well, Kings Peak, the Uintas, just to the north of me, is 14,000. And then just in my backyard, Mount Timpanogos, so that's about 10, almost 11,000.
Well, what was the other big things that Tack Daddy wanted to hit on? I know there was
There's a couple other issues that he wanted to talk about.
do you remember what they were?
Yeah, I'm looking over the text that he sent me.
I thought he was going to send us a bunch of valuable prizes and gifts.
Yeah, I remember the same thing too.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that. I think that's in the after chat.
Okay.
It just doesn't feel right without all the theme music and the
right.
rushing through segments. We feel like we should be at tech time by now.
Yeah, we got 5 minutes before tech time's supposed to start up.
There was something else that he wanted to talk about.
Did you guys talk about DC already?
Action.
We did talk about DC. We covered DC. We touched on the nurse there in New Jersey who was looking at 3 to 10. And we talked about Jesse Ventura.
I guess
And there
I
was
missed the
something
nurse.
else
What was the nurse?
about moms
No, we
and-
didn't do the nurse. That's
I
it.
thought we touched on it a little bit.
No, go over that real quick.
Oh, okay.
Jersey nurse, you talking about?
Yeah. The Pennsylvania concealed carry who crossed into New Jersey with her firearm informed the police officer when she got pulled over for speeding, informed him immediately, and was subsequently arrested and is looking at 3 to 10 years.
Wow.
Awesome.
And that's actually I think it was Marco here who was talking about that if that gets put in the right perspective is a big push to the national reciprocity. That's what we were talking about.
That's it. All
That's
right,
the connection we made to that.
Scoot. What
Then
did
there
you
was
find?
something about the moms demand action. Just basically, they barely just came out with, and I can't remember what it was.
Their new ad, which is decidedly pro self-defense.
Oh yeah, that's the one.
Yep. Yeah, that was nice. I like that one.
All right, so I haven't seen that. So fill
I
us
have
in.
not seen the ad as well.
I've only seen snippets because it was all over the morning talk shows, and pretty much it shows a woman with her hands up and a gun pointed in her face, and it was something about getting robbed or something, and she was scared, and the way it appears to the general public is, well, if she had had her own firearm, she could have defended herself. And where it's supposed to be an anti-gun ad, it really comes across as a self-defense ad.
Nice.
Yeah.
Are we talking about the one where it's like the lady in her house and the
Yep.
estranged husband or whatever comes knocking on the door, kicks it in, steals
Yep.
the kid, I guess?
Yeah, that's the one.
I think it's blatant. I mean, it's like they're so oblivious to the fact that plenty of people have firearms and are not violent. It just, I think it illustrates to everyone out there that watches it, that pays attention. Like I agree with you guys. I haven't talked to anyone who doesn't come away with it saying, well, that poor lady should have had a firearm and that wouldn't have happened. But because they're so oblivious, they put it out there saying, see, guns are bad. Like they just don't even understand the concept of personal responsibility for self-defense.
I'm gonna say
Right.
this, and I know somebody's gonna jump on me for it, but I was watching TV this morning, and they were talking about how all the women on The View, of all shows, all the women on The View unanimously agreed the commercial comes across as a pro self-defense for women.
Right. But I think. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. They just went on to say that it pretty much the underlying message was women go out and get yourself a firearm to defend yourselves.
Right.
Which, if that's the message, fine by me.
Well, and I think and I don't know if there's any correlation to that, but this is kind of a topic we can kind of fuse in here, and it's a little something we touched on a little bit last night. But there's a proposal now for the and I know Are You Ready For It just did a big thing on her channel today about it. The proposed legislation for the removal of all firearms solely based on a temporary restraining order being served or being granted against someone.
I got something for you, Stone Guy. Having formerly lived in Massachusetts, the wonderful dictatorship of Massachusetts, that's already a law. Any temporary restraining order, any long-term restraining order, all firearms are removed from the household. And as until that restraining order is lifted, then you can go back and get your firearms. They're not destroyed, they're kept in evidence. Matter of fact, my piece of crap father, his firearms are still sitting in Massachusetts because he can't get them back.
That's what I was going to wonder is how are they going to facilitate that?
If they use Massachusetts,
like if they came to take all my firearms for some reason, like are they going to buy a new semi-trailer for that? Are they going to store that semi-trailer?
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing that Are You Ready For It did, and I don't know where is it the legislation is like a national thing or if it's just a state. I haven't looked into it enough, but from her, and she's pretty savvy as far as reading the laws and kind of deciphering what it's all about. And from her interpretation was that solely based on a restraining order being granted, and mind you, this is before any court cases, is before you're proven guilty. This is just strictly the judge saying, okay, we're going to grant you this restraining order. It's going to give them like carte blanche to come and remove your firearms even when you're not at home. Like you could be at work, a restraining order gets granted or issued while you're at work, you have no idea about it, and you come home and your guns are gone. I mean, that's the way she presented it because
I would assume they'd prefer to do it that way. Then there's less,
right,
resistance.
That is, that can happen.
But how unconstitutional is that? I mean, really, that's like, I mean, come on. This is like guilty till proven innocent.
Pretty much. I mean, that's right about it, Stone Guy. It really is. And that's the way it works in the state I used to live in.
I mean, come on.
You don't normally lose your rights until you're convicted. So that's not only just guilty until proven innocent, that's convicted until proven innocent.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's that's like breaking and entering, illegal search and seizure. That's like violating so many like constitutional rights. It's ridiculous.
On a national level, I don't think it'll pass. I mean, Massachusetts, until all the stuff that was passed post Sandy Hook, was one of the stricter states, and Massachusetts managed to pass it. All well and good, whatever. Not really a big deal. Because there's not a lot of firearms owners left in Massachusetts. Not per capita, anyways. But I think on a national level it'll fail. I hope it does.
Yeah. Well, shit, Scoot
I
left.
think it can only happen in one of those states where firearms owners aren't a majority, because I don't think it could ever, unless we had a much larger police force, we wouldn't be able to do it anywhere else.
To be honest with you, I think it can only happen in states where you have to be licensed to have any kind of firearm, such as Massachusetts with their firearms identification cards. Because outside of that, you can't stop me from buying a gun private sale.
Exactly. How do you know what's in your house? Like, I'm going to go get his guns. Okay, well, I've got 4. Is that all of them? Or is there 14? Or is there 40? Or is there 400? They don't know.
Right. And in states like Vermont, I'm not sure about where you guys live, but states like Vermont, Maine, New Hampshire, those states, if I were to get a restraining order put on me and they came to my door and they'd be like, we have to take your guns, I'd be like, okay, well, here's my 22 and this. That's all I got. No, you can't search.
You have a lot of guns. I got rid of all mine last week.
Yep, that's it. They're all gone.
Oh, you want my caulk gun and my paint gun?
Right? I got some airsoft guns I can take.
Woohoo! Tech time. Brought to you by Viridian Greenlight Lasers and Head Down Firearms. I just can't do it as well as Tech Daddy does.
So what do we have on tap for Tech Time?
I don't know. The cool thing I did want to touch on Tech Time was Scoot, or not Scoot, Such. Such just did a video on a, who was that? Primary Arms? That doesn't sound right now that I said it out loud. Some kind of takedown AR system that has it's basically an adapter for your upper to be able to unscrew your barrel off of your upper, like super easy, super quick. It's a
Huntertown out of Indiana, the suppressor company, had talked about doing that.
Yeah, that's it. That's it, because I remember it was a suppressor company that did it. So that's actually out on the market. It's $169, and it's, go watch Such's video. It's a super cool system that's like solid. Like, it's the design, the engineering behind this is phenomenal, because it's like a ratcheting system. You know, it's not like something that's gonna back out or strip out. It's like, I'm trying to think of something else that ratchets on, like you get those like little tiny clips.
Suppressor.
There you go.
Suppressors attached that way, or you could say it's like the Takedown Ruger 1022, although it's not 100% like that.
Well, yeah, it's not necessarily like the Takedown 22, because it locks in.
Well, there's a ratchet on the receiver end of the Takedown 22 that you use to adjust it to the right size. So it's sort of like that aspect of the Takedown. But you're right, it's not. It's more of a collar or a collet or whatever that locks into place with a detent.
Right, but the suppressor is a better analogy, because I guess anybody that's ever screwed on a suppressor where you kind of thread it on, and then as you get to where it's, as it gets tight, you'll hear like, a couple little clicks, like sounds like a ratchet, like a normal tool ratchet. It's got that kind of sound to it where it's
like
locking
when you
up.
Screw in your gas cap a little too far and it clicks.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Tighten it.
Yeah, they have that on the Silencer Co. silencers. Where
Exactly. So anyway, that's the thing. It's a super easy. Like, he installs it on the video right there for you in like 10 minutes. I mean, it's super easy, super reliable. He did a test where he took the barrel off and then put it back on, and it held 0. He did that 2 or 3 times, and his groups didn't move. So super neat for in the application. He was using it on an AR pistol, which was even cooler, because you're talking taking I think he had a 10.5-inch barrel on his little pistol that he could take off, and the whole gun was fitting in a little Maxpedition messenger bag type deal. So super cool for a backpacking application where taking the whole upper off, where you take the upper and lower apart, it's still longer than this deal where you're able just to take the barrel off. Neat handguard, that's a rounded handguard with super nice knurling to give you good grip, good texture. Really cool. I mean, I'm thinking about getting one, because it's super cool. And then the other big thing about it was the fact that for like a 300 blackout, you could take your 300 blackout and barrel in your 5.56 barrel and just switch the barrel out on the same gun. So that was cool to be able to have that option too.
That was the biggest thing. Like talking about the handguard. That was the one thing I didn't like, was the inability to like swap handguard. So like if you want a quad rail or just any piece of rail on there, you're stuck with that cylindrical, type of handguard that they have. And I've never been a fan of those like tube cylindrical handguards.
Yeah, that is I would say the only drawback, but there again, for for what for what you're using it on, it's not like you're really going to need a rail system on these little short guns anyway. It's more of a kind of a bug out gun or a backpack gun.
Where do you put your light, your laser, your bipod?
You have to start JB welding to it.
Touche.
Nice. So anyway, that was what I had for tech time, and then obviously I think we touched on that. I just got a notification from, let's see, who sent that to
I actually
me?
had a question for you though, Stone Guy. You have a zero tolerance knife.
I do, yes.
Is that the LMAX still that you have on that?
It is. Let's see here. This is. It's called a 0550 Hinder design. It's a S35VN.
Okay. Okay, so that's good still. Yeah, I'm actually looking at purchasing the 560 with the Coyote Tan G10 scale on it.
Oh yeah, I like the Coyote Tan anyway.
If you don't mind saying, how much did you spend out of pocket on that knife?
200.
200. Okay. Yeah, because I'm looking right around 220.
Yeah, that's about right.
It's a Rick Hinder design as well. It's got the LMAX still. That's the man-made powder still. And it compares right there to that S35 or S30V.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
So my USPSA downrange magazine, it's like an online magazine that they'll send me, talked about the Remington announces R51 pistol exchange. It says, earlier this year, Remington launched the innovative R51 subcompact pistol to critical acclaim. During testing, numerous experts found the pistol to function flawlessly. However, in initial commercial sales, customers reported that the R51 had performance issues. So anyone who has purchased an R51 can return it to receive a new pistol along with additional magazines and a Pelican case.
Wow, so they're doing voluntary recalls already?
Yep.
Oh, hey, did anybody see Mac's video on the R51? I mean, if that's the professional review they're talking about, Mac made very clear cut and dry that here's where it lacks, here's what I don't like, here's where I feel like this could have been done better, this and that. Basically, I got the idea of coming from his review on it is don't buy it. I'm trying to figure out what other people are out there giving gun reviews on it, saying, "Oh yeah, this is great. This is awesome."
I just don't think its actual design fits a need that isn't already addressed and is done better by somebody else.
Yeah, I agree.
So I mean, like the market that they try to come into was already, well established. It doesn't do better than anything that's already out there, and it has that stupid grip safety, which is totally outdated.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the grip safety. I mean, I see the plus and the minus of it, but
I don't see the need of it on a modern gun. I mean, like if it's a 100-year-old design, great, have it on there. But if your design is from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010, and you put something that's a 100-year-old design on there that doesn't serve a purpose in the modern day, you're stupid.
Well, I don't know if I agree with you, but for a different reason. I don't think it's a time frame thing as much as a purpose of the gun. If you're giving it to untrained, recruits, sometimes even people that have not volunteered but been drafted, that's something where you have to worry about their attention span and their actual, attention on what's going on. Where a individual, who's going to be that careless or reckless with a firearm these days?
Agree. But at the same time, it's not like Remington really built this to go through military trials and hope to get a contract either. I don't think that was even in their mindset.
I don't know much about the R-51, but I haven't heard anything good about it.
I think they were trying to get the CIA to use it in their co-op missions over there in Baladabag.
All right. Well, any
Well,
other?
we've got some breaking news from the Gun Channel side. It turns out that the people at Huntertown are cannibals. That they have the Huntertown ate good people.
Nice.
Isn't Huntertown also the company that's doing like that? I think it's like what, $10,000 or $14,000 case of suppressors, where you get like 14 suppressors and all the paperwork?
They might be doing that, but Silencer Co. is the one doing that, I believe.
Okay. So
Marketing it.
Oh, the other thing I did forget to mention that those interchangeable barrel system things are available through Copper Customs gun shop. That's the gun shop that Tim from Military Arms Channel is part owners in. So I think I don't know if they're, I guess, are they doing the install, or just maybe you can buy them through them, or I'm not sure how they're associated, but that was one of the big things that Suits was saying, is you could go to Coppertown Customs and get it.
Nice. Speaking of Silencer Co., has anybody seen the new shotgun silencer that they have? It looks a lot like the Osprey.
Just video, but I'm digging it.
Yeah, I really liked. Did you see the Johnny Drone Hunter?
I just saw something about it. Is it a video that went out?
Yeah, so they've got the initial showing it, advertising it, the first commercial shotgun suppressor that they're running there. It looks like on a Benelli M4 semi-automatic or something of that nature. And then they just released like kind of a play on it, like a movie trailer of Johnny the Drone Hunter. I encourage anybody to check it out just for a good laugh and to educate yourself on maybe purchasing a silencer from Silencer Co.
Do we know what it's going to retail for? I mean, like, is it like absurdly expensive because it's something so new?
They're actually, extremely moderately priced. I mean, they're going to cost just as much as like a Gemtech, or close to that, or even sometimes even a little bit more expensive. But they're not absurdly priced as far as I'm concerned.
They're a lot less than the last mass-produced shotgun suppressor.
Yes.
Who made the last one?
Because there is no such thing.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Well, excuse me. It had actually been done before on Red Jacket, right?
Yes.
But it was not commercially available. This is the first commercially viable one.
So it has been done before.
But reasonably priced to where you could actually afford it. Because we all know that Red Jacket has a nice price tag with it.
Well, I'm kind of embarrassed because now we've done such a great job. Nobody's going to want to listen to Tech Daddy on these shows anymore. They're going to expect us to.
We're all good. We solved the world's problems,
I'm not gonna mind spending my cut of his massive paycheck for the show.
We usually solve the world's problems in between 2 and 3 a.m.
Best thinking gets done.
All right. So I don't know. I guess this is run an hour. So I guess this is normally when he would shut his down. I can't find. So So for everybody that's watching now, I mean, we got like 60 people watching. I'm gonna start up what would be my normal after chat. So stay tuned for that. I'm supposed to have a guy from Hawaii to talk about Hawaii's gun laws.
Are you talking about Hawaii Volcano?
I guess that's him, the
Volcano,
guy that was on the other night.
It's either Volcano Hawaii or Hawaii Volcano. I can't remember.
Yeah, but I can't figure out a way to send him a message because he doesn't.
I think I have his email.
Okay, yeah, if you'll send him the link. So hopefully, guys, everybody that's watching, if you continue, just stay on this channel. I'm about to close this one, and I'll open up a new chat here in just a minute. So I appreciate everybody tuning in for the Tac Daddy show, and then we'll start the after chat up. So see you in a minute.
All right, all right, all right.